Hey everybody, welcome back to another Arrow recap and review. Today we're talking about Season 8, Episode 4, entitled Present Tense. If you have not seen this episode, click away from this video, go watch the episode on cwtv.com, and then come back here because we're talking full spoilers. Alright, let's go. So, this episode I was really looking forward to because leading up to it, I was not totally sold on where the future storyline was going, the future flash forwards. It was kind of interesting towards the end where you saw them going up against JJ and stuff, but after a while I kind of just didn't care because it didn't actually tie in directly to the present day storyline of Oliver preparing for Crisis. And now, as we saw in the last episode, the future kids, except Zoe, got teleported back to, I guess, for them the past, but to us the present. And now they are with present day Team Arrow. And I thought the scene where they first were like really interacting with each other was really well done. Everybody, well, I mean, the whole episode across board performances were great, but especially in the beginning because we see Oliver and William reuniting. We see Oliver meeting Mia as a grown adult for the first time, and then we saw Connor meeting Diggle and calling him dad, but Diggle was really confused, like, "Excuse me, who are you?" Because at this point he has not adopted Connor yet. So to him, this was really weird. And we see how all the present day characters are kind of reacting to this. So Team Arrow from the present split off in one way, and Team Arrow from the future split off one way. And Team Arrow from the future has decided that they're not going to tell present day Team Arrow what happened before they got teleported where JJ killed Zoe, which I guess makes sense because you don't really want to trip them off, and also you don't want them to change the timeline. Now, the thing is, which I'll get into later, is that there are some questions that I had about time travel because we know, based on The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow, that time works one way, but this episode made me question if things are still working that way, so we'll get into that. But it does make sense to see that future Team Arrow is going to kind of hold back information because, one, they don't want to change the timeline, and two, they don't want to see or burden the present day people with the fact that John Diggle Jr. is a murderer and that he kills Renee's daughter. So you see everybody split off. You see Mia and William with Oliver, and you see Connor with Diggle. And while they're all doing that, a new Deathstroke appears, or so we think. I thought this was really well done, where they kind of did a bait and switch, where we thought it was going to be John Diggle Jr. who came back to the present with them, or to the past with the future Team Arrow, but it actually is Grant Wilson, the other son of Slade Wilson, and I thought that was a good twist. And what's interesting about this is future Team Arrow decides, we're going to go do it, we're going to go get him on our own because we can handle it, we're grown. And immediately they get whooped and they almost get blown up. But while they're going after Deathstroke, they call him JJ, and past Team Arrow or present day Team Arrow hears them say that, and so they're like, wait, why are you saying that? What does this have to do with JJ? And then they have to spill the beans that John Diggle Jr. is, in fact, the leader of the Deathstroke gang in the future, and that he murders Zoe. And so we see Diggle and Renee kind of butt heads. Now, this does make sense because I guess feels natural for them to blame themselves because these are their kids, but at the same time, it's in the future, and now based on what's happening in the present, they could potentially change what happens, right? Which, again, we'll get into later. But you see there's a lot of conflict going on. And then you also see conflict between Mia and Oliver because, again, Mia's like, I don't have to listen to you. You left me. And Oliver's like, no, you're going in, like, led by emotion. You can't be led by emotion. You have to think tactically. You have to think, like, what's the best move here? And she's like, no, I don't care. And there's this one scene where they're, like, head-to-head. Like, she was about to leave out on the elevator. And they were, like, face-to-face. And Oliver's like, I'm not going to let you go. And I really wanted to see a fight between them because I knew Oliver would whoop her. Like, it wouldn't even be a contest. But he ends up not doing it. So I'm like, okay. And another interesting interaction was Laurel and Mia. She's like, I know he's a dick, and I'm not going to stop you from doing whatever you want to do, but I'm just going to let you know that from my experience, seeking revenge and doing stuff based off emotion is just not going to work. I thought that was a great interaction. And so we do see a lot of great action scenes with the teams together. We saw a great moment with Oliver and William where he comes out to Oliver that he is gay, and Oliver is very accepting of it. And he says that he and Felicity already knew, but to me, at least I don't remember seeing any signs in young William to make me think, oh yeah, he's gay. But like, again, I guess he can't, they're parents, so obviously they spent more time with him, and there probably is things off camera that led them to know, but at least from an audience perspective, I don't remember seeing any hints at it when he was a kid, which I guess he technically still is in this timeline. And I guess that's also why they now I think about it, why they probably killed off Zoe, because if Zoe came back with them, then she would have to interact with her past self, which would create some weird paradox, I guess. So I guess to get themselves out of that potential disaster, like time thing, they just decided, you know what, we're going to kill her off before they get teleported, and that way we won't have to worry about it. Now, the thing about time travel in this episode that is kind of weird is that they do end up changing the events of what happens, where they do capture Grant Wilson. Now, the thing is, if he does escape later on in the future, then he can still train John Diggle Jr., which is what they said would happen. But still, they caught him, right? So let's assume that they caught him, he's not going to get back out. That means the timeline would change, right? Which means that future Team Arrow would start disappearing like Nora did, because as soon as the timeline changed in The Flash, where the Reverse Flash escaped and Cicada's dagger was destroyed, she was like snapped out of existence, like Infinity War style. She was gone. But in this case, they changed the timeline, or so they think. So I would assume they would have started disappearing like on the spot, because now their future technically wouldn't exist. So the only ways this works is if they didn't actually stop what they thought they did. Like they didn't prevent John Diggle Jr. from being the leader of Deathstroke gang, like it still happens. Or they just completely ignored everything that we learned about the timeline from Legends and The Flash. So we'll have to see, but I'm not totally sure on that. That's one of the things that did kind of confuse me. Another thing about this episode that was kind of iffy is that although it was very excited to see future Team Arrow team up with the past/present Team Arrow, right? I feel like the energy and the momentum of this episode was kind of different than what we've had so far. Like when they were both separate, even though I didn't like the future storyline, it didn't interfere with the present, right? And leading up to this from episode 1 to now, I feel like there was definitely a steady momentum going as we saw Oliver's mission continue with the Monitor and how he's decided, no, I'm not going to do anything else until I figure out what he's really up to. And so this build-up was really good. But then this episode, even though I was really excited, I feel like it did kind of like plateau a little bit here. Like it didn't necessarily go anywhere until the very end, where we saw the Monitor approach Laurel saying, I can bring back Earth 2 if you betray Oliver Queen, which I'm not really sure how that's going to work, because I think, as far as I know, like the Anti-Monitor is going to be like the actual villain, right? And they maybe think that it's the Monitor that causes everything, but it's actually the Anti-Monitor who is like a version of him. But at the same time, if his motives are right, if he's actually trying to save the universe, then what does betraying Oliver Queen accomplish in that? Why would betraying the same guy that you called on to help you prevent or minimize the damage of this crisis, how is that going to help you in your overall scheme? That part also didn't really make too much sense, but I guess we'll learn more about it as it goes on. And then there's also I feel like the energy of the episode was a little different too, I guess because future Team Arrow is there, and present day Team Arrow is there. And so I guess their tones kind of don't mix just yet, and I guess that will come back over time. But it did feel a little different, but I am excited because, again, we see the relationship now, or the deal between Laurel and the Monitor. But we also see that they're going to go to Russia next, because Curtis, by the way, Curtis was back. That was great. But Curtis was analyzing some fabric that was hit by the antimatter to try and figure out how they can defeat the Monitor. And he finds out that the answer is in Russia. So what I think is still going to happen, or at least where the season is going, is like every episode is a build-up to Crisis, but it's also a callback or a tribute to a previous season of Arrow. So this one will be about the whole Bratva thing that happened in season 5, I want to say. Yeah, I think it was season 5. Yeah, with all the Bratva stuff. So I do look forward to that. But this episode to me was all right. I had high expectations going into it, but overall I thought it was just all right. But I do think it'll get better now that Team Arrow from the past, or no, from the future is now with Team Arrow in the present. I think that's going to be great for the characters, seeing their relationship, seeing the kids and their parents team up to fight in the crisis, because it looks like they are going to stick around for the rest of this season, I guess, and I guess technically the series. So we will see. And I am looking forward to it. Like, this is still a great season so far. Blech. This is still a great season so far, so I'm excited. Have you seen this episode of Arrow? What did you think? Let me know down in the comments. Also, don't forget to like this video, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I will explain the background change soon. See you in the next one.